The alarm screamed through the research vessel as it shook violently. Dr. Sarah Chen grabbed her daughter Maya's hand and ran down the narrow corridor. Sparks flew from damaged panels above their heads. The 8-year-old girl stumbled, but her mother pulled her forward. "Mom, what's happening?" Maya's voice trembled with fear. "Just stay with me, baby. Stay close," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice calm even as panic filled her chest. They reached the escape pod bay, but it was too late. The door exploded inward with a burst of blue energy. Massive figures in dark armor stormed through the smoke. The Croth-9 soldiers stood nearly 8 feet tall, their reptilian faces hidden behind helmets that reflected the emergency lights like insect eyes. Sarah pushed Maya behind her, raising her hands. "Please? We're scientists. We're not armed." The lead soldier stepped forward. His armor was decorated with marks that Sarah recognized as military rank. He removed his helmet, revealing a face covered in dark green scales and eyes that burned like hot coals. His jaw had rows of sharp teeth that clicked together when he spoke in rough, broken human language. "You are Sarah Chen. Your name is on rebel supply lists. You help enemies of the Croth-9 Empire." "That's not true. We only provide medical aid. We don't take sides in dash." "Silence." The commander's roar made Maya whimper. "Humans always claim peace while they poison our territories with their words. Your kind makes weak species brave. You make them think they can resist us." 2 soldiers grabbed Sarah's arms while another lifted Maya off her feet. The little girl screamed and reached for her mother. Sarah fought against the grip, but the Croth-9 were far too strong. "Let her go. She's just a child. Take me, but please let my daughter go." The commander's mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile. "No. You both will serve the Empire. You will teach others what happens when they support rebellion." They were dragged through the captured ship and forced onto a Croth-9 transport. The interior was dark and smelled like metal and something else Sarah couldn't identify. They threw them into a small cell with walls made of some kind of energy field that buzzed when Sarah touched it. Maya was crying now, and Sarah held her tight, stroking her dark hair. "It's okay, sweetheart. It's going to be okay. I promise." But Sarah didn't know if that was true. She had heard stories about Croth-9 prison camps. About the things they did to prisoners. Her heart pounded as she tried to think of a way out, any way to save her daughter. Hours passed. Maybe days. Time felt strange in the cell with no windows. They gave them water but no food. Maya finally fell asleep in her mother's arms, exhausted from crying. When the soldiers came for them, Sarah knew something terrible was about to happen. The commander entered their cell with 6 armed guards. "Today you will meet the Veksha," he said. His voice carried satisfaction. "Our greatest war beast. For 40 years it has executed enemies of the Empire. It has never refused a meal. You should feel honored." Sarah's blood turned to ice. "You're going to feed us to a monster? We're people. She's a child." "You are examples," the commander said coldly. "Every species in this sector will see what happens to those who defy us. Your deaths will be recorded and broadcast. Others will learn fear." They dragged Sarah and Maya through long corridors. Sarah could hear it now, a deep rumbling sound that vibrated through the floor. Heavy breathing. Claws scraping on metal. As they approached large arena doors, she could hear hundreds of voices on the other side. An audience waiting for a show. The doors opened to blinding light and the roar of a bloodthirsty crowd. The arena was massive and circular, with metal walls that rose high into the darkness above. Hundreds of Croth-9 soldiers sat in rows around the edge, all watching and waiting. Their voices created a terrible noise of anticipation and excitement. Sarah held Maya tight as the soldiers pushed them into the center of the arena. The ground was covered in sand and strange dark stains that Sarah tried not to think about. At the far end, a huge metal gate began to rise with a grinding sound. "Don't look, baby. Close your eyes," Sarah whispered, wrapping her arms around Maya's small body. But Maya was frozen with terror, unable to look away from the gate. The crowd grew louder, chanting something in their harsh language. Then the beast emerged. The Veksha was enormous. Its body was covered in thick armored scales that looked like dark metal plates. It walked on 6 powerful legs, each ending in claws as long as knives. Its head was massive with a mouth full of teeth designed for tearing flesh. Red eyes glowed in the arena lights as it stepped forward, each footstep shaking the ground. Sarah felt her legs go weak. This was it. This was how they would die. She pulled Maya closer and closed her own eyes, praying it would be quick. The beast approached slowly. Sarah could hear its breathing now, heavy and deep like thunder. She could smell it too, a wild animal smell mixed with something else. She waited for the pain, for the end. But it didn't come. Instead, the breathing stopped right in front of them. Sarah opened her eyes and found herself staring up at the massive creature. It was so close she could see her reflection in its scales. The Veksha lowered its huge head and sniffed them. Its nostrils flared as it took in their scent. Then something impossible happened. The beast made a sound, but not the roar everyone expected. It was a confused noise, almost sad. The creature backed up a step, then made the sound again, louder this time. The crowd's chanting began to fade. Confusion spread through the arena. Maya, still shaking with fear, slowly lifted her head to look at the beast. Their eyes met. The Veksha tilted its head to one side, studying the small human child. Maya did something that made Sarah's heart stop. She raised her tiny, trembling hand toward the monster. Maya, no. Sarah gasped. But the Veksha didn't attack. Instead, it moved its massive head forward and gently pressed its snout against Maya's palm. The touch was careful, almost tender. Then the beast made a different sound, a low rumbling that came from deep in its chest. It wasn't angry. It was gentle. The arena fell completely silent. The Veksha turned in a slow circle, positioning its enormous body between the humans and the Kroth-9 soldiers above. It lay down in the sand, creating a living wall of armor and muscle. Then it looked back at Sarah and Maya with something that looked almost like concern in its glowing eyes. Commander Zexthor stood up from his seat, his face twisted with rage. What is this? Kill them, he shouted. But the Veksha didn't move. Instead, it made a deep growling sound toward the commander. It was a warning. A threat. Several soldiers jumped into the arena carrying shock weapons. They advanced toward the beast, trying to force it to obey. The Veksha rose to its feet, but not to attack Sarah and Maya. It stood over them protectively, growling louder. When one soldier got too close, the beast snapped its jaws in warning, making the soldier jump back. The crowd erupted in confused shouting. Some soldiers looked frightened. Others looked amazed. This had never happened before. The famous war beast, the executioner of the Kroth-9 Empire, was protecting the very prisoners it was supposed to kill. Sarah stared up at the creature in wonder, her arms still wrapped around Maya. Her daughter was no longer crying. Instead, she reached up again and touched the beast's leg. The Veksha looked down at her and made that gentle rumbling sound once more. Commander Zexthor ordered his soldiers to remove the Veksha from the arena using tranquilizer weapons. It took 12 darts before the massive beast finally collapsed into sleep. Sarah and Maya were dragged away and thrown into a different cell, this one with solid walls instead of energy fields. The cell was cold and dark except for a single light in the ceiling. Maya curled up against her mother, exhausted and confused. Sarah held her close, her mind racing. What had just happened? Why did that killing machine refuse to hurt them? 2 days passed. Guards brought them food and water but wouldn't answer any questions. Sarah could hear angry voices in the corridors outside, Kroth-9 arguing in their language. Something big was happening. On the third day the cell door opened. Commander Zexthor entered with 2 other Kroth-9 wearing different armor. One had symbols that looked scientific rather than military. The commander's face showed barely controlled rage. What trick did you use? He demanded. What chemical? What device? Tell me now. Sarah stood up, keeping Maya behind her. I don't know what you mean. We didn't do anything. Lies. The Veksha has executed thousands. It has never refused. You did something to it. The scientist stepped forward. She was smaller than the soldiers and her scales were lighter green. We scanned you both, she said in better human language than the commander. We found no devices. No weapons. No chemicals that should affect the beast. Yet it refuses to approach you with aggression. When we kept it away from you, it stopped eating. It became sick. Sarah's scientific mind began working. It stopped eating? How long? 3 days. It grows weaker. Our handlers cannot understand. They say it seems sad. An idea began forming in Sarah's mind. She had studied dozens of alien species during her career. She knew about animal behavior, about biology, about how different creatures responded to different stimuli. Commander, what was the Veksha before you turned it into a war beast? Sarah asked carefully. That is not your concern. Please, Sarah pressed. I'm a xenobiologist. I study alien life. Maybe I can help you understand what happened. The scientist looked at the commander, then back at Sarah. The Veksha species was called Vekara originally. They lived in family groups. Packs. But we bred that weakness out of them over many generations. We made them perfect killing machines. Sarah felt pieces clicking together in her mind. But you didn't breed it all out, did you? Some instincts are too deep. Too fundamental. She turned to Maya, kneeling down to her level. Maya, honey, do you remember what I taught you about how humans evolved? About how our ancestors survived? Maya nodded slowly. We hunted together. We worked in groups. Like wolves. That's right. Humans are pack animals, baby. We form bonds. We protect our families. Sarah looked back at the Croth-9. When that beast approached us, it didn't smell prey. It smelled something else. Something its ancestors would have recognized. The scientist moved closer, interested now. Explain. Humans produce chemicals when we're together. Especially mothers and children. Oxytocin, pheromones, other compounds. These chemicals signal bonding, family, protection. When Maya and I held each other, terrified, we were releasing a cocktail of biochemical signals that probably matched what the Vekra used to recognize their own pack members. Sarah continued, her voice growing more confident. The beast didn't see us as food. Its deepest instincts saw us as family. As pack members to protect, especially a mother protecting her young. That's one of the most powerful instincts in nature. You can't breed it out completely. The scientist's eyes widened. She turned to the commander and spoke rapidly in their language. The commander's expression changed from anger to something else. Concern, perhaps. Or fear. If this is true, the scientist said slowly, then humans could affect many species this way. Your kind naturally triggers protective and social responses in others. Sarah nodded. It's how we survived. It's how we make allies. We bond with everything. The news spread like fire through the Croth-9 fleet. Within hours, every soldier knew about the human and the Veksha that refused to kill. Some laughed and called it a trick. Others grew quiet and thoughtful. Word traveled through communication channels to other ships, other worlds, other species. Commander Zex Thor tried to control the information, but it was too late. A junior officer had recorded the arena incident on his personal device. The video showed Maya raising her hand to the beast, showed it protecting them, showed it choosing mercy over violence. The recording spread across the galactic network faster than any virus. The Croth-9 High Council demanded answers. They sent their best scientists to examine Sarah and Maya, to test their blood, to measure every chemical they produced. The results shocked everyone. The lead scientist presented her findings to the council with Sarah present. Humans emit an unusual combination of biochemical signals, she explained. When stressed or protecting family, these signals intensify. We tested these compounds on 17 different predator species. 14 showed reduced aggression. 9 showed protective behavior. 3 became actively friendly. One council member stood up, his scales dark with age. This means humans have been manipulating us? Using biological warfare? No, Sarah said firmly. We didn't know. This is just how we evolved. We survived by forming groups, by making friends, by bonding with others. Even with animals on our planet. Humans domesticated wolves into dogs, wild cats into pets. We bond with almost anything. The old council member looked disturbed. Then every alliance humans have made, every treaty, every friendship might be influenced by this biological effect. Or, another voice said, humans are simply very good at making real connections. Perhaps that's why they survived despite being physically weak. Meanwhile, something else was happening in the Croth-9 military compounds. Other Veksha war beasts were behaving strangely. 3 separate incidents occurred where the beasts refused to attack human prisoners. One beast broke free from its handlers to protect a human maintenance worker who had accidentally entered its territory. The handlers reported that beasts near human presence became calmer, less violent. Some even seemed happier. The Veksha that had protected Sarah and Maya grew sicker each day it was kept away from them. Medical scans showed it was dying from stress and sadness. News channels across the galaxy picked up the story. The Galactic Council, which governed peaceful relations between species, sent representatives to investigate. Other species came forward with their own stories. A Thraxian ambassador reported that human diplomats had helped end a civil war on their world, and their presence had made ancient enemies willing to talk. A Zephyrite trader said humans had helped rescue his crew from pirates, and the pirates themselves had surrendered peacefully after talking with the humans. We thought it was just their words, the Zephyrite said in a broadcast. Their ability to speak well. But maybe it's something deeper. Maybe humans make us want to be better. Public opinion shifted across the galaxy. Some species feared humans now, calling them manipulators and chemical controllers. But more species defended them. They shared stories of human kindness, human bravery, human friendship. They argued that even if biology played a role, the choices humans made were still real. Inside the Croth-9 Empire, something unexpected happened. Soldiers began questioning their orders. Some refused to hurt human prisoners. Others asked why they kept the Vekra as slaves if they were intelligent enough to recognize family bonds. Young Croth-9 who had never questioned their warrior culture started reading about the Vekra history, about the species their ancestors had conquered and broken. Commander Zexthor faced a nightmare. His superiors demanded he execute Sarah and Maya to show strength. But half his soldiers now saw them as sacred somehow, protected by the Veksha itself. If he killed them he might face rebellion. If he freed them he would look weak. The galaxy watched and waited. In her cell, Sarah held Maya and listened to the changing sounds outside. Something was shifting. Something important. She just hoped they would live long enough to see what came next. The Veksha was dying. The handlers reported it had not eaten in 6 days. It lay in its den making sad low sounds that echoed through the compound. Medical teams tried everything but the beast was fading. Its eyes had lost their glow. Its breathing came in shallow gasps. Commander Zexthor stood outside the den watching through monitors. His career was ending either way. Kill the humans and face rebellion. Free them and face shame. But there was a third option he hadn't considered until now. Bring the humans to the beast, he ordered quietly. His officers stared at him in shock. Commander, that violates. Do it. Now. Sarah and Maya were escorted under heavy guard to the Veksha's den. The moment they entered, the beast lifted its massive head. Its eyes brightened. It made that same gentle rumbling sound from the arena and struggled to stand on shaking legs. Maya broke free from the guards and ran to the creature. No! Sarah cried out, but it was too late. The Veksha lowered its head and nuzzled Maya gently. The little girl wrapped her arms around its snout, tears streaming down her face. You're sick, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry they hurt you. The beast's breathing steadied. It lay down carefully and Maya curled up against its side. Within minutes, it fell into peaceful sleep, something it hadn't done in days. Sarah approached slowly and sat beside her daughter, placing her hand on the creature's warm scales. The guards watching seemed unable to speak. Even Commander Zexthor stood silently, witnessing something he didn't understand. Over the next week, Sarah was allowed to stay with the Veksha. She studied it carefully with her scientist's mind. She watched how it responded to Maya's voice, how it recognized emotions, how it made different sounds that seemed like language. She requested access to old Croth-9 records about the Vekra species. What she found changed everything. They were building cities, Sarah told the commander when he came to check on them. The Vekra before your people conquered them. They had families, art, culture. They were intelligent. Not just smart animals. They were people. Zexthor's expression darkened. That's impossible. We would never. Your own records prove it. You destroyed their civilization 300 years ago. You killed the ones who resisted and bred the survivors into weapons. You didn't create war beasts. You enslaved a sentient species and broke them. The commander stood frozen. Sarah could see the conflict in his eyes, the warrior pride fighting against growing horror. The Galactic Council considers enslaving sentient species a crime against all life, Sarah continued softly. If this becomes known, it won't just be about me and Maya anymore. It will be about justice for an entire species you tried to erase. The truth couldn't be hidden. Too many people knew now. Too many had seen the video, read the reports, watched the Veksha choose mercy. The Galactic Council arrived with warships and demands for answers. The Croth-9 Empire faced a choice: face trial for crimes against sentience or begin making changes. Sarah and Maya were released as part of the first negotiations. The Veksha that had protected them was freed too. Maya named him Guardian, and he refused to leave her side. The Galactic Council declared the Vekra a protected species and demanded their rehabilitation. Years passed. The galaxy changed slowly. The Croth-9 Empire didn't fall, but it reformed. The war beasts were freed one by one, taught to remember what they had been, helped to heal. Maya grew up and became a scientist like her mother. She led the Vekra Restoration Project, traveling to different worlds to find and free the remaining beasts. Guardian went with her everywhere, now joined by others of his kind who had rediscovered their voices and their culture. On the day Maya's own daughter was born, Guardian lay beside the hospital bed, making that same gentle rumbling sound. The baby reached up with tiny fingers and touched his scales. He made a happy sound that meant family, that meant love, that meant the bond between human and Vekra would last forever. The galaxy learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't weapons or technology. It was the simple ability to see others as people, to form connections that couldn't be broken, and to recognize that every thinking being deserved freedom and dignity. That one mother protecting her child in an arena had sparked a revolution of compassion that spread across the stars.